All right, folks. So now that we finally got our hands on these handguards from, these are the original, not original, obviously. They're just the model 607 handguards that actually have the heat shields in them. As you can tell, they look a lot different than what the heat shields that we saw when we were doing the video on the Brownell CAR-15 handguards heat shields. And so they look a lot different, but at least we have them now, right? And they're the real thing, at least the real remakes of the real thing. So pretty thick looking, but plastic wise, the composition of the two look fairly similar. If anything, this looks a little bit shinier. This is the OEM right here by GBB, and then this, I don't even know who makes these actually. So we'll see how these, if they fit, but these are supposed to be on the real steel one. All right, well, and of course, from the front angle, they look like this. From the rear, they look like this. And then when they hold together, hopefully that should be enough, and that's what they would look like the inside. And those heat shields right there, those metal heat shields should be what ideally is supposed to use to help dissipate some of the heat and protect your handguards and your hands. And then of course the vent holes on top like so. But of course, this system isn't as effective as the later models, both from ergonomic standpoint and from a heat dissipation standpoint, because of course we now know that the CAR-15 models, or the slimline handguards, were a little bit more circular and encompass a little bit more heat protection that would actually surround the vent holes right here, not just leave it kind of like a gap directly touching the plastic or the polymer. And then of course later on the M4 handguards, they got double heat shields, so they were much thicker even. So it slowly progressed, but these are the earlier versions, so this is what it looks like. So now that we know what the real steel polymer version looks like, this is what the original one looks like. So let's see if we can pop open this slip ring and then pull these handguards back. I might have to do it off camera here. Actually, maybe I could get this on camera. So basically I just pulled that out, pulled that slip ring back a little bit. Some people call that the Delta ring. Maybe it's more of like the tapered one. They call it Delta. The old one, they call it the slip ring. If someone knows down here, be my guest to help explain me and enlighten me on what the difference is, or the proper terminology, because we don't want to be using the wrong terminology around here. So anyway, I'm gonna try to, it's probably a lot easier, but I'm trying to do this on camera, and this is the only good setup I have where you can see this. Oh, I think I got it. I don't want to damage the end caps there. I think it's out. Why is it still stuck though? Let's see here. There we go. Oh shoot, I think I just broke something. Something just came loose in the front. A chunk of plastic. Oh, here we go. So this, I accidentally broke something there. There's a little end piece right there. Shoot. I think it belonged up here. Well, I don't think there'll be a huge, oh, so it's similar to this piece. So these are the little like parts that help kind of keep the handguards aligned together. I broke the ones on the front, but so I think that was supposed to slip into this little hole right here. And it was supposed to go onto this part right here, but that's okay. I think the end cap in reality will hold it in anyway. But this is what it looks like. Remember, these are separate halves, right? So you have a left half and a right half. Whereas a newer, and that's another reason I forgot to mention, with the introduction of the circular handguards, right, you know that you can have identical halves, right? The top or the bottom, doesn't really matter. You can flip, mix and match, doesn't matter, and it makes the logistics a lot easier. This, of course, you have to source with a left side and a right side part. So if you have a bunch of these lying around, but your right side's broken, you're out of luck. You got to get another set. So let's compare how the of course, the GBB model right here, like I mentioned before, no heat shields in there, right? So, which is, again, I find that very odd that they didn't do that. But let's see how it looks like next to the real one right there. And this does look a lot, I don't know if it's because the optical illusion from the heat shield here makes it look larger. And this makes it, the OEM right here looks larger, and this is just covering it, because remember, it looks like that. So let's see if we can put them side by side and see if that really would pair up together. Because if you pair them together, actually, they fit, sort of. Well, not really. Left is the OEM, right is the real authentic one. And as you can tell, they're slightly different. I'm not talking about the handguards, I'm talking about the structure. So look at that. This one, at the very beginning, the taper is more aggressive with the real, or the OEM one. So notice how at the very beginning, they kind of line up pretty much flush. But as you get further and further back, notice how the OEM one right here is starting to become more raised. So the slope is a lot more aggressive. Whereas this one right here, the real steel, sits much lower. So slightly different dimensions. Hopefully though, that won't be a problem when we install it. So let's try to remove this other half here. I'll do it off camera, and then we'll see if we're able to install the real steel right there. Well, before I install the actual handguards here, I want to take a look here and point out that normally I'm used to the hop-up assist unit being right here under the barrel, but they're usually serrated, or so there's actually like edges so you can turn them. This is completely smooth. So I actually do not know where you go to to adjust the hop-up. Normally I would have said here, but I wonder if anyone else has this model or has the GMP, knows where you're supposed to go. Anyway, so that's kind of an interesting thing. So let's go install them now and see what happens. Okay, so far, not too bad. The first half, the right half is in. Fits perfectly. The front triangular handguard cap fits nicely. No loose edges or anything like nothing. They're all flushed with the cap, so it doesn't look like there are much issues. Snapped in the rear. I put it snapped into place very nicely. So let's just try to attach the second half now, and I don't anticipate any problems, but let's just attach it together and we'll see how it looks like now. Whew, I have to use some screwdrivers. There are tools, I think I've mentioned it once in my last video, there are tools that are required to, that makes it a lot easier to pull the slip ring back. But I don't have those, and I don't think it's necessary, I guess, because I don't do it frequently enough, but now would be a time to have something like this. So anyway, I just use a screwdriver. It's a lot hard to get in the second one once you have the first one in, because you don't have as much play to pull back the slip ring. But I was able to use a screwdriver, or a flathead basically, to kind of gently pull the slip ring back while I had to push in the delta ring, or the handguards. So this is not completely in yet, so all I gotta do is now snap it in, but I wanted to show y'all what it looks like before we snap it in. So let's push it in and make sure it's complete. There we go. So now the two halves are mated together. Again, this is now officially a, look at that. Was that really worth it? Probably not. But hey, it feels a lot slimmer. Let me take these gloves off so I wasn't gonna cut myself. Much slimmer feel to it. But they look very from the rear, so I don't know. I don't think GMP did a very bad job, actually. So if you stuck with the original, you would have had something that's pretty good. Dimensions are slightly different, but overall not bad, and they weigh a pretty good amount too. Very similar to this, actually, and this actually has the real handguard, or the real steel heat shields in it. So So of course now we can go, full auto, and it won't be as bad on our hands now, right? No, just kidding, that's a joke. Well, there you have it, folks. So we also know that now these work, and GMP specs are real to these commercial stocks or these commercial parts, and this is one part that you can use for your airsoft guns. All right, folks. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that content. I was really worried that this wasn't going to work. Well, not really, but I was a little bit worried. But now we know it works, and now we got the heat shields in place now, which is something that I wish that they did originally. But hey, now we've got them, and now they kind of look like this. So as you can tell, it's not a huge thing. Again, I mentioned earlier, you're not going to notice this as much. But for those who are collectors, kind of like me, you really would want to have them in there because you can kind of notice them in the situation like this. And now it just makes it that much more complete. So overall, I think it's worth it. For me, I really like to have that brief moments when I do look inside, or when I'm looking at it from a certain angle. I want to be able to see like the heat shielding from those angles that when you're looking down the exhaust vents but if you didn't get them, that would be totally fine too. One thing I do want to point out though that I noticed though is that before I mentioned in my original review of it is that because it's kind of aggressively tapered in some ways, I mean relatively speaking to the real steel handguards, when you're holding it from the base, if the rifle, as it is kind of heavy, if it does slip, because the tapering is much more aggressive, it will slip much faster. With the new one, being the real steel being much less, not much, but a couple of centimeters slimmer around the base of it, that when you're holding it vertically like this, if it does slip, you are not going to slip as fast as the original one. So from an ergonomic standpoint, I think this is also a little bit better too. And this is very similar to the time when I upgraded my original Marui M4 handguards with the slimmer line CAR-15 handguards. It just feels better. It feels a little bit, you can get a better grip on it. So overall, I think this is a really good purchase, and it has an extra added element of realism to an already realistic CAR-15.